Hello everyone and welcome back to another Babbling Irons video. A little bit different. We're just going to break down the season so far. There's a lot of talk of what's going on. So we kind of want to dissect it from a statistical point of view, of course. And yeah, it's kind of an overview, very high level overview. We're not going to go too granular into the details about this season, but yeah, we're going to look at the expected statistics. So if you're a fan of that, make sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe, as yeah, we're all about data on this channel, and hopefully this will provide a little bit of an insight into how we've performed versus how statistically we probably should have performed over the course of the season so far. So yeah, let's get into it. As I mentioned, let's kind of look at the baseline for what's happened so far this season, because, you know, for all the negativity at the moment, and I completely understand why it's happening. I've completely frustrated myself with what's happening on the pitch in 2024. Still without a win, pretty damning stuff. So yeah, we got 4 crucial games coming up next. I think they're all against teams below us. So this is going to be a good baseline to see how we perform, especially with the likes of Paqueta still out. And Antonio maybe returning for the next game against Forest. But here's the breakdown of so far. 10 wins, 6 draws, 8 losses, 36 points amassed, 36 goals scored, and 42 goals conceded. So you can kind of see there, the first thing for me is too many draws. And we've drawn too many games where we should have won. You just have to think of games at like Crystal Palace at home. More recently as well, I can't remember who we played, but we drew. I think it was Bournemouth. Again, they're matches you have to win if your ambition is to become a top 6, top 7 team. And that's probably where we've dropped down in our points. We could easily be plus 40 points so far this season, but then again, swings and roundabouts, because we've gone to the likes of the Emirates, we've gone to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and picked up 3 points where statistically you probably wouldn't. So we've picked up some really good results this season, which is why it makes it so frustrating at the moment that the performances have just completely dropped off, because we were doing really well in the early stages of the season. I think we won our first 4 games. We were top of the league. Everything was nice and rosy. Then we started to drop stupid points. There was a period where we'd only lost to Liverpool, Man City. We'd gone drawn to Newcastle. So we were getting some really fantastic results. Beating Brighton, beating Chelsea, but eventually it's going to catch up with you, because we said it on the channel before. The results have been great. Our counter attacking was excellent. Our clinicalness in front of goal was so much better than last season. And I think that was evident in the results we were getting. Just think back to that Brighton game, think back to that Chelsea game. They're games where if you don't take your chances, as cliche as it sounds, you're not going to win the match. And in that kind of circumstance, you have to take your chances. Again, Arsenal away, we took our chances. Spurs away, we took our 2 chances in the second half and ran away with 3 points. So you have to take your chances. And I think that's what started to dwindle a little bit going into 2024. And it's why we've seen a drop off. In front of goal not being good enough. And defensively, teams have started to punish us when before we were kind of getting away with it, which we'll get into a bit shortly. But, just to bring this back up, 42 goals conceded, from this many games. It's not good enough. It's way too many goals conceded, especially for the way we play, meant to be defensively rigid and structured. Hasn't been much structure recently. And, we're starting to get found out a little bit. We're quite easy to play through, very naive in how we defend. And as soon as we go 1-0 down, I really don't have any confidence in overturning it. I think we're a team that has to get the first goal a lot of the time to go on and win 3 points, which is a big issue, because we've said it before with Moyes. He doesn't really know how to break down a team when we're 1-0 down. He's kind of relying on a set piece or something out of the ordinary to happen. And B, the mentality of the squad isn't strong enough. We don't have the self-belief to change a match for ourselves. So, you think back to the Bournemouth game, we went 1-0 down very early on, and the performance was really poor after that. And it took a bit of magic from Kudus to win a penalty, which was, again, a close call. And luckily, Ward-Prowse converted it. So there's been ups and downs this season. We've had some fantastic moments. We're still in Europe. We're out of both domestic cups, which is disappointing. But, I don't really mind that much for this season, because we've got Europe and because we've progressed into the knockout stages of that Europa League campaign again. So it depends on how we perform there. But we're slowly starting to get away from the top 6, top 7. I think we're 8th now. And I just kind of want to compare it to the expected stats that have kind of cropped up so far this season. So let's take a look side by side, so we can see a little comparison of how we've performed and also what we were expected to perform. So here's a little visual here. So let's start with points. 36 points amassed on the left. The expected points say we should have got 28.21. So we've outperformed our points by about 8, which is quite a big swing when it comes to expected stats, to be honest. You look at the goals scored, 36, expected goals scored, 34.52. So not too much difference there. Again, this disparity was a lot higher earlier on in the season when we were scoring goals and taking our chances in moments. But yeah, it's kind of balanced out a little bit now. And then goals conceded as well. 42 goals conceded is extremely high. But then you look at the expected goals conceded, it's actually higher, which is, a complete negative, to look at. And it's not helping our chances. And, look at the position there. We currently find ourselves 8th, but as I mentioned, the expected position is a lot lower than that. 5 positions lower in 13th, and I think only 7 or 8 points off Luton, who were in 18th on the expected position stats. So, yeah, it's a tough one. Again, there's reasons for both sides of it. I think we haven't scored enough goals as number one compared to how we were flowing at the beginning of the season. And again, it comes down to the fact of if we don't take the lead in a match, we really struggle to score a goal and get back into it and then go on to win it, for example. Most teams who have ambitions of finishing in top 6, if they go 1-0 down, 1-0 down at home to, say, a Crystal Palace or a Bournemouth, 9 times out of 10, they will go on and win that match. It's very rare that they will not win the game. We've seen it on a few occasions, but again, it's very rare to happen. And if you want those ambitions to be a top 6, top 7 club, you have to show it. You have to back it up with the mentality, and it starts within the squad. Starts with the manager, of course, but also the players have to take some responsibility for what they're doing out there. You look at Calvin Phillips coming on against Arsenal at the weekend. You look at their goal and what he did. He pressed the ball, kind of just turned around and jogged and wasn't even looking at the ball when the ball was played between the lines. That is an issue. That's a mentality issue. That's a naivety issue. That's someone who doesn't really care about the scoreline in that moment of time and probably is just thinking from a selfish point of view. I want to get some minutes here. I want to get some match fitness, but that's not good enough. And that's kind of seeped through into the squad a lot. Not blaming Calvin Phillips for this, but it's been a recurring theme in the last couple months now since we had that good turn of results in December. So the mentality isn't right. I think AFCONs and injuries have definitely disrupted the flow. But it's not an excuse. It's not an excuse to see what we're seeing on the pitch at the moment, especially on Sunday against Arsenal. So the expected stats don't lie. I think there are definitely things you have to take into account when it comes to expected stats. The quality of chances amassed, the amount of chances amassed. Like you could amass like 20 to 30 shots in really poor positions, but eventually your expected goals in that match will topple up. In comparison to one shot, really close from 6 yards out, which has an XG of like 0.8. So you have to look into a little bit more detail, which is what I didn't want to go into too much detail here. I wanted to give kind of a holistic overview of where we currently sit and where the expected stats expect us to sit. And I think it gives us a good indication that, we're, again, as I bring these up again, we're 8 points better off than we probably should be on the balance of things. And to be honest, it's not too far off how I would probably portray it. I mean, you look at some of those wins we had against Brighton. I think we deserve to win that. Spurs was a snatch and grab. Arsenal, again, we defended well, took our chances, but again, on another day, they definitely could have scored a couple of goals against us. So it's tough. It is tough, but there's still time. That's where my mentality is at. I know there's a lot of talk about Moyes, which I'm not going to get into because I don't think it's fair to do it at the moment off a kind of a reaction to what's happening. It was only a month and a half ago, we were all saying, Moyes is doing a fantastic job and no one would neglect him from getting a contract. That was kind of the general consensus that if he did get it, he's probably earned it, whether you wanted him to or not. But now it's kind of switched on that because yes, the results have been poor. The performances have been really poor. But again, these next 4 games is where I'm probably going to make more of an assessment because we're playing the likes of, again, I think it was Nottingham Forest. I think we've got Crystal Palace in there. We've got a few Brentford at home. So there's some very winnable games. And it just depends on that mentality switch now. Can we push on? Do we actually believe we are better than some of these teams? do we have that mentality to push aside the things that have happened so far in January and February? Let's see. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. And yeah, until the next one, come on, you irons.